When did you realize that you're dating an idiot? When he missed his daily medication, he threw it out instead of just saving it for the next day. Stacking cups in the dishwasher. When she said she loved nothing in the world more than Greek mythology, even got a degree related to Greek mythology from University of Arkansas but had no idea who Prometheus and Achilles were. When he told me the reason why I got sick with the flu was that I did not wear a bra under my shirt. Proceeded to explain breasts are an incredibly delicate part of women's bodies and thus by leaving it exposed like that I was risking any type of disease, same as if he wouldn't wear pants. He thought you absorb a gallon of water when you shower tears of joy so he didn't need to drink water. She didn't understand that you actually have to pay what you spent on credit cards. Like the credit amount she had was supposed to be her monthly limit that just one resets one each month. When she was choosing random pills from the blister of a 21 active 7 placebo contraceptive, instead of following the arrows on the package. When kids egged his car and he thought the best way to get the egg off was to use steel wool. Used the leaf blower to clean the inside of the house. Edit, I was the one to use the leaf blower. I opened the front door and was blowing heaps of long dog hair outside when I didn't have a vacuum. My wife still makes fun of me for it. After her third business opportunity turned out to be another pyramid scheme. We didn't date long but knew each other for a while before that. I liked her for her work hard, get paid attitude. Turns out the hard work she was doing was costing her way more than she made, and didn't realize it. An ex thought that commercials were recorded live, and the people on TV were employed to do them over and over again. Calls me at work because her crumpets don't fit in the crumpet tray under the toaster. Crumpet tray. Had a look when I got home, clearly labeled, crumb tray. When my ex asked me where they grew spaghetti. ETA. I cannot believe my most upvoted comment is about that absolute walnut. My ex was scared of hedgehogs and convinced himself they could jump over a 6-foot fence like a cat. When I asked her to hand me a kitchen knife and she threw it at me. And that's not even the stupidest part. When I tried to explain the basics of handing someone a knife, or pair of scissors, she refused to accept that what she did was wrong or unsafe. It was suddenly apparent that she couldn't possibly ever admit to being wrong. Edit, it was an underhand throw. The night I said that I thought I smelled gas, and they grabbed a lighter and struck it without hesitation. She was struggling with money and being able to save. I came home one day and she had a new 40k car in the driveway. She purchased it without even discussing it with me. She essentially sentenced herself to having no savings for the next 5 years when we were trying to save to buy a house together. She skipped going to community college classes to stick it to the professor. I had to explain that she had already paid to be there and the professor wouldn't care or notice. The day I told my girlfriend I think I broke my toe and her solution was to yank on it with all her might. It was gout. Where does the sun go at night? I was dumbfounded. Edit. She was in her early 20s at the time. When I mentioned WW1 and she asked if that was why they called WW2 the Second World War. She had no idea there was a first one. Her parents also taught her that a guy jerking off and a girl having a period were basically the same thing as abortions. No wonder she was one of 11 siblings. She thought people dug potholes during the night to force you to buy new tires. She told me Apple Music was bullshit, because it only had covers of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, and not the original. Preheats the microwave. When he said he'd make pancakes and put the dry powder directly in the hot pan. She refused to pay taxes, have a bank account, or pay for public transit. She told me, I change my name every few years so they can't find me, like, she'd go to the government asterisk and change her name. Legally. So the government asterisk couldn't find her. We broke up for other reasons, but this was the first red flag. When I found out my ex didn't know what order the months go in. When I asked him to learn he got mad, said no and that it wasn't something he was interested in. My ex-wife and I were talking about money and it didn't seem like she knew how to make change. I asked her how many quarters she thought were in a dollar and she shrugged. We were talking about dinosaurs and he was shocked to hear they were real. Then he proceeded to ask me if they really breathed fire. He thought dinosaurs and dragons were the same thing. When I overheard her complaining I was too worried about money, after she financed a 30k car with an insane interest rate while making $15 an hour. After we had our dog neutered, she asked why his penis was still there. He could not find our country on Europe's map. The countries were written in bold, and the capitals too. We were having an argument, although I can't remember what about, when I very calmly asked him to explain what made him think that. and he said, "I hate arguing with you because you always make me realize I'm wrong." When we passed by a car wash that said free vacuum with purchase of a car wash, and they thought it meant we'd get a free vacuum to take home with us to clean the house with. I absolutely love my idiot to death. She asked me if there was one Hitler and an army of Nazis, or one Nazi and an army of Hitlers. My middle school ex told me that females only get their period when turned on, then proceeded to accuse me of sleeping with one of his brothers since I got it on vacation with them. Needless to say, his brother thought it was hilarious and added onto it by telling him that the period only stopped when they were around someone unattractive. It was kind of funny. She said playing basketball makes you taller. Her proof was all the tall people playing basketball. My wife would bring stuff home that said, "Refrigerate after opening, open it, and put it in the refrigerator." Red heart. I introduced him to my stepsister. He said, "Weird, you guys look nothing alike." One day they looked at me and said, "We should make a trip to New York." I said I think that would be fun, but we really don't have the money to fly there right now. It's not that far. We lived in Portland, Oregon at the time. New York is next to Canada, and Canada is just past Washington. It can't be that far away. My ex wanted to start a business making supplies for baby showers. Her business plan was to sell everything below cost to increase sales. After I had explained numerous times that you cannot profit from a business that will inevitably lose money, her reply was that I was the idiot because if she sold them cheap it would drum up more business and she would sell more that way. When she asked me, "Have you ever had your hair set on fire, and then lit my hair on fire?" We done. My ex-wife. The doctor said her test came back positive. He thought dipsticks were a scam to get people to buy more engine oil. She kept stating the big revelation of her story with "Lord and behold," instead of "lo and behold." I told her she was using the wrong word, but I was the idiot because you behold the Lord. Anyways, Lord and behold, she fucked 5 other dudes, so we're on a more than temporary break. She hasn't noticed yet. The fool would bang on my dashboard and scream the name of a certain restaurant whenever I drove past it. After almost getting into a wreck twice, I asked him why he was trying to kill us. He said he did it because it was his thing. He never rode in my car again. The day I learned that the Underground Railroad was not, in fact, a literal underground railroad. Edit. I misread the prompt and thought I was supposed to describe the moment I realized I'm an idiot, not the person I was dating. Please forgive me. I'm an idiot. Tried explaining to her that even though she's entering a higher tax bracket that she is still clearing more money. She thought she was going to make less. The more I explained, the angrier she became. When she told me she was a flat earth person. I dated a model, firefighter who didn't know alcohol was flammable. God doesn't give with both hands. Doing a fun fact about me, icebreaker in a group, and his was I've never read a book. I'm going to throw myself under the bus here because I think it's funny, but I used to think horns in cars only had so much air to use, so you had to use your horn sparingly and only when you really needed it or it would run out. I feel like someone had to have told me this while growing up. Tears of joy. So many. Denies the Holocaust, put plastic pan in conventional oven, didn't understand grocery shopping. His mom would load him up on trips home. My friends called me the weirdo magnet. An ex once asked, in all sincerity, do people who speak other languages think in English? What? Well, all my thoughts are in English, and I assume we all think the same way. We were 22 years old. This was not a keeper. She needed to move for work and I didn't. I came home from work, walked through the front door and said, "Goddamn, how many fucking times have I told you not to dry clothes on the fucking heater?" She told me I was being a drama queen, so I brought her attention to the fire in the middle of the living room. If she'd turned her 45 degrees to the right she would have seen it, but she was too into the TV. Her using a 2-to-1 shampoo and conditioner twice meant her hair is cleaner than mine because I use a shampoo and conditioner separately. She legit thought she found a life hack. Her hair was also dry and frizzy AF. The Pacific Ocean. She thought cats and dogs were the same animal, but cats were female and dogs were male. She grew up in Asia with no pets, but still. Flat earther. No longer dating, but after homecoming in high school we went for pizza. She wanted to try a vegetarian diet, and as we were selecting toppings she looked at me. "Is there meat in mushrooms?" I half smiled thinking it was a joke. She just looked back expecting the answer. She got thrown out from a bar and nearly arrested because another woman complimented my shirt and she was convinced that meant she wanted to bang me. Edit. Holy wowza, 6k likes is the most I've ever gotten on any form of media. Thank you all so much. My now husband, when we were first dating, told me that he believed that all plants could be classified as either a fruit or a vegetable. After we were married, he told me he thought platypus were the size of golden retrievers. When he could not follow boxed cake mix instructions and did not know how to pump gas. She tried to explain that Young Living essential oils is not an MLM scheme. Deleted. My abusive ex came in me one time and the condom broke. When I panicked, he told me to just pee it out. Excuse me, 1WHAT1 aggressive and manipulative behavior aside, no wonder the sex was bad. The motherfucker had no concept of female anatomy whatsoever. She entered her personal information to get a free laptop that was advertised on a porn site. When we were having a discussion about how illiterate I thought he was, and his response was, "Proof it." And no, I wasn't baking bread. When I learned that she thought the night sky is a big dark canvas, and that stars are the sun behind this canvas shining through pinprick holes. When I realized when they said they worked in freelance advertising, it meant he was in a spray paint gang. Woman of about 40 who had lived in LA all her life. We were driving along the coast and she asked me what ocean that was. When she asked me what the floating comma was, it was an apostrophe. We were in college. He thought the moon emitted its own light. Didn't understand that the moon reflects light from the sun. Also, thought Alaska was somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean because that's how the US maps show it, out in the ocean. We're not together anymore, lol. She asked me if I could name all 52 states. My ex would only drink whole milk because with 2%, what's the other 98%? He thought he was a genius. Concerned with water's fat content. Explained to me that Kim Jong-un signed an order making K-pop groups, specifically BTS, required to join the army. I laughed and told her she was mixing up North and South Korea. She hit me for laughing. I broke up with her. When I found him angrily looking for something and I asked, where was the last place you remember having it, he thought about it and found it immediately and was amazed. He literally had never followed that thought process before to find something. I have a few. She was a psych major, but didn't believe alcoholism was real. In any way, I mean any way, not even withdrawal was real. Went on a date, she said her favorite movies were the Fast and the Furious movies. When she asked me what the moon burned to produce moonlight. When he suggested that we should have a shared banking account, after only dating less than a month. He didn't know how to spread something on toast with a butter knife. Picture taking a glob of peanut butter and then kind of slapping it onto the bread, leaving one mound of peanut butter in the center and most of the bread uncovered, giving it a few more pats and then calling it a day. When I questioned it, he said it's really hard, and not to be mean BC, he's not good at cooking like me. He said a black guy giving him a parking ticket was trying to get back at him for slavery. I left. When he was legitimately certain that the entirety of New York State was just the 5 boroughs and the rest simply didn't exist, despite my insistence that I have been to Buffalo. I had to show him 2 different maps. All the history and facts are getting in the way of my argument. This is possibly my favorite thread of all time as a currently single person. He was shocked that Lou Gehrig died of something called Lou Gehrig's disease. I remember him asking, what are the chances of that? Woman facepalming medium light skin tone edit. This happened in 8th grade and I think you're allowed to be an idiot at 13. I was paying for something. Total came to €6. I asked the cashier if I could give her €11 and get a €5 note back rather than change. She said sure, and that was that. Hours later I asked my GF why she was so quiet. She told me she's thinking about ending things as she couldn't believe how dumb I was that I would pay more for something just to cut down on change. We agreed to part ways. The night he said he couldn't go to a party we RSVP'd for because his socks were in the washing machine and he didn't have any to wear. They told me their Reddit username and I looked up what subreddits they were active in. My first ex thought Boston was a Canadian city. My ex-boyfriend was convinced that he was allergic to the cold and would tell people that any chance he got. He said he broke out in hives. His hives were goosebumps. When she got into a multi-level marketing scheme and started talking about being a millionaire within the year, after that year she wasn't a millionaire, but she was single. When she said she supported child labor skull. Our first time hanging out he was desperately trying to explain to me that a song couldn't be sad, because the music video has werewolves. I married him 4 years later and we've been married for 6, so realistically I'm probably the bigger idiot. Lol. When I was driving, she was looking around out each window then went, you ever realize that we are surrounded by mountains? I just said, yes Katie, that's why it's called the valley. How do I explain this? He thought a woman who was pregnant could continue to get pregnant. Essentially, he thought you could continue adding babies throughout the course of a pregnancy. Edit. He utilized this phrase of adding babies in a joking manner many of times before I realized that he, indeed, believed you could continue to add babies to a pregnancy. She told me she is lactose intolerant because she can't eat eggs. I married her. She's an actuary. This girl I dated thought Alaska was an island, because on a map it's by itself in the corner next to Hawaii. X tried to argue that Africa was a country and called her mom to verify. She got quiet and went home. When she studied to take the ASVAB tests for months, took the practice pre-test several times and failed so horribly the Navy actually told her, "Listen, no thanks, we don't want you," very sternly. When I told him the neighbors had lightly complained about his loud music late at night. He asked me, why is their need for sleep more important than my need to blast my music? She ate raw chicken because she had the munchies and was too lazy to cook it. When I pointed out some stars and she revealed she thought they were all the same distance from Earth, in the same spherical plane. When she said she was a vegetarian, I said no you aren't, you had hamburgers with me. Her reply, yeah but that comes out of the cow's udders. She yelled at me for not answering her snaps quickly enough. I was at work. We're not dating anymore. She was legitimately afraid that 5G would kill me when I got the COVID vax. She thought I was out cheating even though she drove me to work every day, with a full week's paycheck, every week. After we broke up, I would often declare unpleasant things as smegma. I know the definition. 3 months after we broke up, not nicely, she called and yelled at me for embarrassing her at a party with her new friends. She used the word to describe something, and hadn't bothered to see if it was a real word. She said they roasted her. I laughed until she hung up. She didn't know you had to empty the lint trap of the dryer frequently. Not the exhaust vent, the lint trap. It was caked * with lint. Lint was coming out at the seams. She was 30. I told her she was going to burn her apartment down. She got mad at me for making a big deal. He thought humans had only been around for 4.5 thousand years. He was super religious and thought humanity started when the Quran was written. He also thought that the dinosaurs were a conspiracy to distract people from religion. I'm not religious myself, but I accept other people for who they are, unless they start trying to rewrite history to fit their own narrative. I told her I would like to skydive sometime, and would probably do so when I'll fly home next week, as there is skydiving available in my town. Her immediate reaction was, "What happens to your luggage? Do they send it to you later?" She thought I was gonna dive out of a passenger plane when we're flying above my town. My high school girlfriend had found snails in the garden and decided to keep them as pets. She put them in a fish tank, empty, with some plants etc. Wondering what to feed them, she found snail pellets under the sink. Oh, Mum has snail food. Not my story, but an American saying, "You need a passport so we can go to New Mexico. It's across the border." I asked my ex-girlfriend to marry me. She said, yes. That was when I knew. Married 25 years now. What a beautiful dope she is. She believed women could get an abortion up to week 43. He was studying for STEP2 for med school, and out of curiosity I took a practice test with him. We got the same score. I am not a med student. I was 8 years younger than him, and a freshman in college. He told me it was okay to go the wrong way on a one-way street if I was only going half a block. When we had to get grit for our ducks. It's ground up granite * and she was worried it would go bad. Fucking granite. The trees make wind by flapping their leaves. No, I'm not joking. Yes, she made 3 times my salary. When she accused me of psychically giving her dog cancer. She kept asking me who bought my sunglasses for me, who bought my watch for me, like, me. I bought them. Also, her dream job was an influencer. I'm too old to put up with taking a bunch of photos when we go out to eat. My ex-husband didn't think he could get an STD unless he came inside his side piece. All the same man, my ex-husband, asked if cats have bones, thought baking sheet meant the same thing as wax paper, didn't know how to address an envelope or where to put the stamp at age 23. She once called me and asked, which is closer to north, east or west? I told her I wasn't sure how to answer that question, and she assured me she knew someone she could call. I love him, but he was using Tide Pods in the dishwasher for 4 months. Despite going with me to the laundromat, where we used the same Tide Pods. When asked about it, he went, "I thought it was weird but I didn't say anything about it." She once told me to kill a mouse before it turned into a rat. She thought that they were the same animal and that they evolved like some type of Pokemon or something. When I told him multiple times over and over not to use metal utensils on a pan, use wooden ones instead, and then when I pointed out to him, you ruined the pan, you scraped all the coating off with metal utensils, he looked me dead in the eye and I shit while not. He told me, no, you ruined it. She said she didn't believe in vaccines. And that she was part wolf. She would not microwave water because it would become radioactive. Let me ask my wife and I'll get back update. Task failed. Made her mad and now she won't talk to me. This was years ago, about 2 weeks into dating. This woman saw on Facebook somewhere you could recharge your iPhone by putting it into the microwave for a set amount of time. I think my boyfriend realized it when I was shopping for a 12 by 18 picture frame, found an 18 by 12 one and went, "All this won't work," and didn't realize I was wrong until our mutual friend took it from my hands and rotated it. I will never forget his expression LMFAO. Thought ISIS was an organization from Iceland. She looked at a clock on the wall, with hands, and said, "Oh, it's 4:30 already." It was 3:05. How come planes are so small and look like ants when in the sky? She is a licensed lawyer. I wrote out a whole thing about how dumb my ex was, but then realized most of the points were just him being a toxic asshole, e.g. raging and throwing his cheeseburger if it had too much sauce on it. He was dumb as shit, though. I was overjoyed when he finally got his license suspended because he drove like a psycho. During wildfires in the area, she asked why they can't just go out there and stomp them out. Sagebrush isn't very tall. Worst part is she said she had been a part of a wildland firefighter crew in Arkansas. Needless to say, there were more brilliant ideas like that, so it didn't last. Said, if people don't like the electoral college, why don't they just go to a different college? She said, everything I want will come true. I said, how come? She said, because it's science. I've read it in a book. I was speechless. After that, I dated her 2 months more until I got sick of horoscope readings after sex. When we were cleaning up the kitchen after cooking, I handed him a wet dish rag and told him to wring it out and wipe down the counter. He asked me what that meant. Had a girlfriend who thought the phrase hand-me-downs was hand-me-downs, and pay-per-view was pay-per-view. When I was renewing my health card and got to the organ donation section, it says, check the box of the organs you would like to donate if you die. I said, I'll just donate all of them, and he said, both of them. When I watched him shower and I realized he didn't know how to brush his teeth or use soap properly. He asked me why gay men don't just fuck girls anally, as if it was the same thing. A fight ensued. Also, he argued that Jesus was truly white. When Kimmel was doing a drunk Trump segment, and she got this confused look on her face and said, isn't this illegal? I thought you couldn't make fun of the president, and was completely serious. Edit, and she wasn't from a military family. He pronounced, namesake, as if it were a Japanese word. She took a bite out of the wax fruit. I mean, it's very convincing looking fruit. But when she went back for the second bite, she told me the moon landing wasn't real. My girlfriend asked me why the fish tank never overflowed if water was always going into it from the filter system. When he asked how insane it must be to film in space, after watching Gravity, I caught on to his habit of taking 3 to 4 pain relievers whenever he was sick, in pain. I was with him when he took, like 6 inches ibuprofen, and snatched the bottle from him to read the recommended dose. I peeled back the sticker to read and find out, and he said, I didn't know they did that. Woman facepalming. She thought the more songs you put on your phone the heavier it got. Was told this when I wanted to throw a few albums on her iPhone and she said her purse was already too heavy and didn't want more weight added. I'm still dumbfounded a decade later. He put wine in the freezer because alcohol doesn't freeze. We were cleaning up broken glass and wine slushy for a while that morning. He didn't think parking tickets could be linked to him while he had temporary tags, so he parked wherever he wanted until he got booted. He totaled his car by not changing his oil. When he loaned me the book, Fossilized Customs, and I followed the clues to figure out that he probably thinks the world is 6,000 years old. People like that are the reason I suss out red flags before sleeping with someone, lol. Look, I'm not saying I like Hitler, but he was obviously important enough to be a leader in 2 world wars. Note, she is currently a successful immigration attorney in Orange County. He tried to show me his cracked screen by sending me a screenshot. We're 22 now, we were 14 at the time, and I still bully him for it. He was old enough to know better. He didn't know how to read the instructions on a bottle of medication, so would just take a random amount of pills. Later found out his whole family was like that, and one relative had already had a transplant as a result of nephrotoxicity.